to me anymore. All she did was walk away. And I was like, what is this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. She couldn't do it. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat because it doesn't curve, the water always finds its level.
What'd your teacher do?
She just didn't talk to me anymore. All she did was walk away. And I was like, what is this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. She couldn't do it.
Up for sound bites. This is awesome.
Welcome back to Anti-Religious Scripture Study. Thank you for being here. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. With me, Kirby, and Just Jack.
With me, Kirby, and Just Jack. Yeah, sorry, I got thrown off because I thought I hit the unmute button and I didn't, and I started talking and I didn't see the little things moving, and I was like, ah, damn it.
I'm gonna blame me. Obviously, it's my fault for getting the whole thing out of whack. I'm sorry for my tardiness. So I'll just jump in my disclaimer, just get it over with, and then we can get to it. Just Jack's disclaimer. To the religious, if you believe, see, I knew it was going to happen too. If you believe it's wrong to study the scripture outside of the religion or denomination, if you believe your religious leaders or church fathers are incapable of having inherited anti-scriptural traditions of men, if you've already made up your mind about scripture, including the scripture shouldn't be studied at all, then the stream is not for you. To others, if you are open-minded to others' opinions, if you haven't made up your mind about scripture, if you've been turned off to religion but believe the truth of scripture that may have been changed or hidden by religion, if you live according to scripture and like to dig in and discover more, then this stream is for you. We are looking at scripture in the original language using concordances or dictionaries for root words, as well as context from a non-religious perspective. We will as well have life experience discussion. We are not here to argue with others about theology or doctrine by the traditions of men, including Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. We will be discussing the importance of origins and show how religions contradict the scriptures. There you go.
All right.
Alrighty then. So last week we it was about the quote unquote 10 Commandments, right? Which is always a fun subject of mine because I love debunking the title itself. But there is also, more detail in this description than there was in the original context. So he's reiterating back and he's adding some more information to it. Which is always the case whenever he's going back. It's like one is just an overarching, this is what happened, and then later on they get into the detail of it. That's a common thread throughout all of the scriptures. Okay, so there are some things where people will, I mean, it's not for me to judge whether or not people trust the scriptures and live accordingly to them. But there are some people that say, well, in Exodus, there was this set of rules, and then they changed it for Leviticus, and stuff like that. However, I don't see any conflict between Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy. I don't see any conflict in between just going with all of it as read. Excluding the what's the word? Levitical priesthood, right? Because there are no Levites around, there is no tabernacle around, there is no temple around. So those are null and void. However, the rest of them, how a individual deals with situations, I think it's very valid. And there are commands that are specifically for females, and there are commands specifically for males. There are commands specifically for young ones and specifically for old ones, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And when it talks about, when it doesn't specify in the command who the commandment's for, then it's just basically for everybody. Right. That's the way that I look at it. Now this chapter right here, I actually like this chapter ever since I started learning about the Torah and started getting out of mainstream churchianity, because I found out that this guy in the quote unquote New Testament, this guy from the quote unquote Gospels, is quoting Torah like through his whole ministry. He's not making up new stuff and starting a new religion. He's quoting directly from Torah. And even though we don't typically go to the New Testament, I'd like to go there today just because these verses are literally quoted by the one called Yeshua, otherwise known as the replacement name Jesus. Right? All right. So we can begin whenever you're ready.
All right. And this is the command, the laws of right rulings which Yehovah your Elohim has commanded to teach you to do in the land which you are passing over to possess.
And then passing over to possess is, of course, crossing over the Yarden, aka Jordan, to go into the promised land, land flowing with milk and honey, et cetera, et cetera. And again, when you look at words like commands, laws, and right rulings, make sure that you look at the roots of those words so that you can see exactly, because in English, like, aren't they all the same thing? But you have to understand the context of the roots of the words to understand. Like for commandment is actually, under, like, let's put it into military terms. The ones under the general do these things, right? They go under that command. So that one is a legitimate description. I think that's a good one. The next one is an inscription or a custom, and that they had translate this to laws, but laws gets often translated from the word Torah as well, which is basically a roadmap to life, like a directional. And then right rulings is judgments or justices. Okay, so that right rulings is okay, but it's I think justice is a better translation of that word.
Okay.
All right. So in other words, there's no favoritism. This is the right way to deal with situations. Those are the justices. All right.
All right. So that you fear Yehovah your Elohim, to guard all his laws and his commands which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the days of your life, and that your days be prolonged.
Okay.
And you shall hear, O Israel, and the guards, and shall guard to do, that it might be well with you, and that you increase greatly, as Jehovah Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you, in a land flowing with milk and honey.
Okay. And now here we're going to get into the nitty gritty that will go back and forth with the New Testament briefly.
Okay. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah our Elohim, Yehovah is one. And you shall love Yehovah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might.
Yeah. And might is actually all of your all of your much, which it kind of like doesn't make sense to us very well in English, but pretty much all your everything, right? All your all your much. All right.
And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart.
Okay, so I'll let you keep reading. Sorry.
Okay. And you shall impress upon them your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind
Okay,
them.
so this is not, excuse me, this is not you quoting Torah day and night without ceasing, right? It's just everything you do, whether you're sitting in your house, you're walking by the way, you're lying down, you're rising up, it should be in the context of the Torah. That's what it's talking about, right? All right, 8.
And shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes.
All right, I'll let you read the last one, and then we'll go to the New Testament.
And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates.
Okay, so I wanted to point out something here, and then we'll go back to that 1 second. Sorry, I always have a throat clearing issue in the morning. This doorpost thing, I find it funny because this is, if you look right here, I'll highlight the word, and I'll go to Strong's just so it shows up larger. But this is the word mezuzah. Okay. Now, if anybody knows some devout Jews, they have what are called mezuzahs, which is like when you walk in the door, you'll usually find them like crookedy on the door, but it's like this casket. And inside this little casket on the door is a little tiny scroll rolled up with some scripture on it. And they hang that on the door, and it's called a mezuzah. Okay. They're doing this for a religious way to follow this verse. You shall write them upon the doorposts of your house. But the funny thing is they call it a mezuzah because it's hanging on the doorpost. So when they're acknowledging it's like doorpost, like they put a doorpost on the doorpost is what I'm trying to say here. They call it a doorpost and they put it on their doorpost. Okay. That's for, people, if they're wondering about where that whole thing, mezuzah, came from the Jews. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just thought that was interesting and people should know about it. All right. So, hear, O Yisrael, Yehovah, our Elohim, Yehovah is one, and you shall love Yehovah, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your very. All right. So if we go over to Matthew 22:36. All right. So I find this interesting that people ignore the context of quotes, right? But it happens often, especially in religious circles,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it starts with, but Pharisees having heard what he had said, silenced the Sadducees, were gathered together. And one of them, one learned in the Torah, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the King James Version, one which is a lawyer. A lawyer is one that's educated in the law. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about, look, it says right here in the definition, I'm going to stretch it up for people to see, according to or pertaining to the law. And the law is, in this case, referring to what the translator calls Mosaic law. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about Torah here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it says one that is learned in the law did question him, trying him, saying, Teacher, what is the greatest command in the Torah? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in King James Version, what is the greatest command in the law? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeshua said to him, You shall love Jehovah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your mind. Right? He's quoting directly from Deuteronomy 6:5, which we just read. Right?
Right.
It says this is a first and great command. All right. So if you go back there to Deuteronomy 6:5, and where did I put it? On verse 4. Okay. And then you go to Mark. Da 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 da. Where's Mark?
I just saw it.
Yep, there it is. Mark 12:29. It's the same story, okay, in a different gospel. 12:29.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, one of the scribes coming near, hearing them reason together, knowing that I had answered them well, said, Which is the first command of all? Right? Sounds very familiar. This is the same story.
Mm-hmm.
It says, And Yeshua answered and said to him, The first of all, the command is, Hear, O Israel, Jehovah or Elohim, Jehovah is one, and you shall love Jehovah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, with all your mind, and with all your strength. So again, he's quoting from Deuteronomy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what people like to do is say, well, when Yeshua came around, he had this new set of laws where you just have to love God and love your neighbor, right? But in the context of what Yeshua is quoting in both incidences, it's the way that you love Jehovah, the way that you love your neighbor is by obeying the commands. These words which I'm commanding you today shall be in your heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the context of this. It's not just a willy-nilly emotional love. It's a love through action, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, oh, I love my neighbors as I'm stealing his stuff, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have a demented, worldview, you could say, well, I love my neighbor every night at 6:30 for about a couple hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can be very, very distorted if you don't look at the context of these things which, Yeshua was quoting. And he even started in, like I was showing you in that last version, he even says, oh, there it goes. Hear, O Yisrael, Jehovah, our Elohim, Jehovah is one. So that's what it's referring to. He's quoting directly from here.
Mm-hmm.
He's not making up new stuff. He's not overriding the law. He's quoting the law and saying that that's how you live by them. That's how you love the Creator and love your neighbor. All right, verse 10, whenever you get back on track. Sorry for going all over the place, but I had to give that context.
And it shall be, when Jehovah your Elohim brings you into the land of which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov, to give you great and good cities, which you did not build, and houses.
Okay, so that's talking about when you go into the land, you're going to have the cities, you're going to conquer them, and they'll become your cities. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And houses filled with all kinds of goods, which you did not fill, and wells dug, which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees, which you did not plant, and you shall eat and be satisfied.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with them when they left Mitzrayim, aka Egypt, is that they got plundered without fighting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Be on guard, lest you forget Jehovah who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the house of bondage. Fear Jehovah your Elohim and serve him, and swear by his name.
Okay, here's another incident where people, not reading things in context would get stuff screwed up. Okay, so swearing by his name in religious circles is very bad, right? Because, they'll take the context out of Exodus chapter 20. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, which literally says, do not take the name of Jehovah your Elohim to nothingness, which they did by changing it to Lord thy God. But also in the New Testament where it talks about do not swear by anything, they're misquoting Yeshua, because if you look at the older versions of the Greek, it says do not swear falsely by anything. In other words, don't make a swear if you're not going to do it, regardless of what you think that you can swear on. Like, well, I'm not really swearing on his name if I swear on the Lord, right? That was their scapegoat, right? We're not technically swearing by his name, we're swearing by the Lord, so therefore we can get away with breaking the swear. And Yeshua was like, no, don't swear falsely by anything. That was the context. So here the scripture's literally telling you that if you plan on making it a true promise that's going to, make it true by swearing on his name, right? It's not a light thing. In other words, when ancient Near Middle Eastern contracts were written up, they were written up and authorized in the name of their deity. So if you make a contract with anybody, you say, I swear it by Jehovah, it will be done. And that's the seal, right? That's what this is talking about. So the religious thing where you can't even know the name of the creator, this verse is definitely in the face of that. You're definitely supposed to know his name and swear by it. All right.
I mean,
14?
That's why they make you put your hand on the Bible when you testify, right?
Exactly.
All right. Do not.
But then they say the generic God. So
right. Do not go after other mighty ones, the mighty ones of the peoples who are all around you,
including God.
For Jehovah your Elohim is a jealous El in your midst, lest the displeasure of Jehovah your Elohim burn against you, then he shall destroy you from the face of the earth.
And this burn is right here to blaze up, right? To burn, right? To consume with fire. All right.
Do not try Jehovah your Elohim as you tried him in Massah.
That was where, the bitter waters and everything. He keeps reiterating that that's the place where he lost his entrance into Israel, because it's all their fault, because of rebellion.
Right. Diligently guard the commands of Jehovah your Elohim and his witnesses and his laws which he has commanded you. And you shall.
Okay, so this is one of those incidences again where you have the commands and then the witnesses and then the laws. So these laws are the inscriptions and customs. And yeah.
And you shall do what is right and good in the eyes of Jehovah, that it might be well with you, and you shall go in and possess the good land of Jehovah swore to your fathers. To drive
good
out...
land functions. sorry, good means functions, right? So good land functions.
To drive out all your enemies from before you, as Jehovah has spoken. When your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is the meaning of the witnesses and the laws and the right rulings which Jehovah our Elohim has commanded you? Then you shall say to your son, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Mitzrayim, and Jehovah brought us out of Mitzrayim with a strong hand. And Jehovah sent signs and wonders great and grievous upon Mitzrayim, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household before our eyes. And he brought us out from there to bring us in, to give us the land of which he swore to our fathers. And Jehovah commanded us to do all these laws, to fear Jehovah our Elohim for our good always, to keep us alive as it is today.
Okay, so if your son asks you, what are all these laws about? then you can tell them, okay, we used to be in bondage. We used to have to be controlled by a man, you know, and this gives us our freedom. These laws give us our freedom, which is kind of counterintuitive when we think about man's laws, because man's laws are about bondage, where Yah's laws are about freedom and righteousness, right rulings, justices, right?
Mm-hmm. And it is righteousness for us when we guard to do all this command before Yehovah our Elohim as he has commanded us.
All right, there we go. That's the end of that chapter. So, I guess I'll look through the chat here. Oh, FYI, this chapter is also what the Jews use for what's called the Shema. It's a prayer that they do often, and they even try to say the Shema before their death. And it starts with, Hear, O Israel, Yehovah, our Elohim, Yehovah is one. Only they don't say Yehovah, they say Adonai. So they're not actually saying it. So, but that's religion for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Like even on your deathbed, you can't say his name. Like, you know, you would think that would be a good time. I'm about to meet this, you know. All right. Shout out to Boston Ray, Joseph Osborne, Rose 777. What's up? Alex Javier, Dose of Reality, Brian Stavely, Valley Parks, Chris Shizpak. Sorry if I'm reading that wrong. Nape, Mojo, I don't know if I already said that. John Keeley, TZ Zamman, Flat Earth Andy. I always see that as Flat Earth Handy because the H and the A. Anyway. Guideline strike. Okay. Dennis, Matrix Media, Nathan Reed. Got one that can see. That's a reference to oh my gosh, what's the name of that movie?
They Live.
They Live. Yeah. We said in unison. That was pretty cool. Yeah. All right.
It's good to see
What
you
happened
guys.
last week, Shabbat Shalom? Last week I had it wasn't Shabbat that I was busy. It was the entire week up to Shabbat, so I needed it to completely rest. It was a very rough week for me. As far as like busyness. So oh, I miss It's X Music. All right. In It's X Music said people like Karen B, Witsit, Nathan, and Jaron, etc. These are my people kids will consider celebrities. All right, so here comes Jack's crazy talk. First off, I wouldn't call them kids. I would call them children because kids are baby goats because they're selling off children to Baphomet and insult back in the day. And you have to be specific when you say Nathan because there's about a dozen Nathans in flat Earth. Okay, anyways, getting on. Let's see. Thunder Chicken, good to see you. Yo Jack from Brian. Hello, good people from Godline Strike.
Or Testify landing on the moon, right?
All right, I guess that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, you except for the one you got. And that is a shout out to Aurorian and Buckeye Jim. Giant head fart or something. I don't know what that emoji he's trying to say. But anyway, yeah, I'm sorry that I missed last week and I'm sorry I was late today. But you know, this is a good thing to look at, especially if you're new to the subject of Torah, that Yeshua is not making up a new religion. He's just living out the Torah and teaching others how to do so. Okay, so Brian Stavely says Nathan Miller is the real Nathan. Okay. Whatever. But anyways, y'all have a restful Shabbat. And unless there's anything you'd like to add, Karen, if you want to, you know, tell people about Flattowerfest again, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Want to share the deets?
Yeah, I do have a date, I think, set for Flattowerfest. It's going to be September 27th, 28th, and 29th this year. It's also going to be in Spartanburg, South Carolina at an outdoor event. There will be on-site camping, and if you don't want to camp, there will be hotels. There are hotels nearby. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled for details on that. I need to get ticket sales going. I don't have them up yet. I'm almost there. So, but I did want to let everybody know the date, and I'm starting to book some speakers. So it's going to be a good time. There's going to be there's going to be music and speakers again. It'll be fun. And all kinds of other stuff.
Can I throw in my own personal opinion about this whole camp out idea?
I guess so.
Okay, so for me, I'm going to be right in the midst of Sukkot, so it's a no-brainer. I'm already camping anyway, right?
Uh-huh.
But the thing that I'm looking at is, when I go to these conferences and there's a hotel, what usually happens, if there's a lot of people staying at the same hotel, or if the event's actually at a hotel, everybody stays up all night in the hotel lobby or the hotel hangout area or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's best to be there to camp out because you're not going to sleep anyway. You're going to be having so much fun, having conversations up all night, and you're going to pay whatever, $200 a night for a hotel room, and you're probably not even going to be there for what, maybe a couple hours to take a nap. You know what I'm saying? That's my own perspective. I know other people, they want to be able to get away and stuff, but I'm saying in my case, I love staying up all night at these conferences, and sleeping is definitely a secondary thought. So
yeah, for a lot of
anybody
people
who's been to these conferences, yeah, they know.
Yeah. So that we got that going for us, and I will be doing coffee talk on Monday, Moon Day morning. So I'll see you all Moon Day morning. No more Strange World for me. So.
Alrighty. Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
All right. Shabbat Shalom, y'all. Thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Or still thought.